Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're immersing ourselves in a piece of work that is, well, it's just incredibly sincere and deeply courageous. It's Amaliya Akmad's self-healing book, Satu Persatu Aku Sembuhkan Diriku, which translates to healing myself one by one.
And you know what stands out immediately is that this is intentionally not a manual for how to be strong every day.
Right. Quote setiap hari.
Exactly. It's explicitly about choosing to survive, even on the days you feel utterly fragile or rafu. It's this very honest, step-by-step journey away from the exhaustion of trying to look perfect.
And that honesty is really what pulls you in. Our mission today is to explore that vulnerable path, and we're going to focus specifically on the unique, often unseen burdens carried by the anak pertama, the firstborn daughter.
Especially in a dysfunctional or a chaotic family.
Yeah, we want to understand that challenge of breaking inherited cycles of trauma and, how the author navigates this courageous path of self-forgiveness.
So let's start with that initial weight, the burden placed on that first child's shoulders.
Where does she begin?
Her initial identity is just completely rooted in feeling tidak kakap.
Not enough.
Not enough. She describes growing up misunderstood, unheard, and carrying these wounds that couldn't even be spoken.
Luka yang bagkantak sempat dikapkan. That phrase is so powerful.
It is. These are the hurts that just never get a name because there's no safe space to even voice them.
And the text gives this role a fascinating name, which really stuck with me. The silent scavenger.
Yes.
It just perfectly captures that psychological reality of the firstborn daughter, who is often hyper-aware, constantly scanning her environment.
Goes on alert.
And quietly picking up the debris, the serpihan pertingkaran, the shards of parental conflict, and just storing them away inside.
It's a completely unsustainable emotional model. They internalize all that chaos because, they're too young to logically get what's happening.
They're old enough to feel it.
Old enough to feel the danger. So the only survival mechanism that kicks in is to clean up the mess emotionally and, hide it.
And this leads right to that massive label that gets placed on them. Tiang keluarga.
The family pillar.
The family pillar. You're expected to be strong, patient, mature, understanding. But the text makes this crucial, almost heartbreaking point, that when you're forced into that pillar role, supporting everyone else, you forget you have a right to be an anak juga.
A child, too.
You lose the permission to have your own needs, to be fragile yourself.
And the implication of that role is just massive. The constant pressure to be the pillar forces silence. The firstborn is basically tasked with maintaining the family's good name.
Jaga nama baik keluarga.
Yeah, and anything less than perfect stability is seen as a failure of the child, not a failure of the family system.
That is such a dangerous mandate for a child's development. If your entire identity is tied up in keeping family secrets, how does the book suggest that silence impacts you later on?
It leads to growing up with luka yang terbiasa disangkal.
Wounds that are habitually denied.
Exactly. You get really, really good at justifying the pain away, convincing yourself it wasn't that bad. Because if it was that bad, well, that would expose the family.
So the core insight here is that you can't be the pillar if you ignore all those small accumulating wounds.
You can't. If you're constantly suppressing the evidence of the family's turmoil, you're literally burying yourself under those fragments.
And that denial mechanism, it doesn't just switch off when you turn 18. It profoundly shapes how you approach adult intimacy, which I think brings us to the impact of witnessing a rumah yang retak.
A cracked home.
Oh.
Exactly. The author describes this devastating experience of learning about love from the wrong example.
Seeing parents sailing tinggal tapi tidak, sailing mencintai.
Staying together, but not loving each other. And this wasn't just observing an unhappy marriage. It was internalizing this deep fear that togetherness equals trauma.
And that trauma legacy, it crystallizes into this really powerful, almost paralyzing promise that you make to yourself. Aku tidak mau hidup seperti ibu.
I do not want to live like my mother.
Yeah, and specifically, that intense fear of staying in a relationship only demi terlihat utuh.
Just for the optics.
Just to look whole on the outside, no matter how devastated you are on the inside.
And this leads to something the author calls sintayang takut bertumbuh.
Love afraid to grow.
Yes. If you grew up in a home where comfort was always followed by conflict, you learn to equate deep connection with imminent danger.
So you start to fear comfort itself.
You do. The author identifies comfort, rasa nyaman, as the precursor to trust. And trust, terrifyingly, becomes seen as the pintu pertama menuju kemungkinan disakiti.
The first door to the possibility of being hurt.
Yeah.
So instead of seeking that closeness, the firstborn might actually push it away in their adult relationships.
Precisely.
They're trying to preempt the pain they learned has to follow any deep connection.
Right. They might self-sabotage or maybe choose partners who are emotionally unavailable or just hold back crucial parts of themselves. The source material emphasizes this key psychological truth,
Which is,
that children grow from rasa, from feeling and emotion, not from logic. An adult might try to rationalize their parents' fights as, just a little bit of noise.
but the child's feeling was one of toxic stress.
Toxic stress and total insecurity. That environment teaches the child that berbikarda itu berbahaya.
Talking is dangerous.
Talking is dangerous. If communicating at home always ended in shouting or that icy cold silence, the safest strategy was to adopt silence, to make yourself small. It's a survival mechanism forged in fire.
And that silence then becomes the default setting for the adult when they face conflict, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It makes it nearly impossible to advocate for your own needs in a healthy relationship. You retreat, you hide your pain, or you just end it before it can grow to a deep and therefore dangerous level of trust.
This pattern sounds incredibly difficult to break. So this brings us to section 3, that crucial pivot away from paralyzing self-blame toward reclaiming your own inherent self-worth.
Yes.
How does the author guide the reader towards shifting that narrative?
Well, the shift is fundamental. It means moving away from that internal echo chamber of apa salahku.
What was my mistake?
Yeah, to the affirmation, bukan salahku, it was not my fault. And this is so difficult because the firstborn has internalized the blame for the family's instability for decades.
I think one of the most powerful realizations in the book is about rejection or loss in adult relationships. The author gives you this whole new framework for understanding why things fall apart.
She does. She argues that loss isn't always because you were kuang or not enough or flawed. Sometimes rejection happens simply because the other person, well, memang tidak tahu cara mencintai seseorang yang tulus.
They did not know how to genuinely love a sincere person.
Exactly. And that just flips the script entirely. It shifts the burden from yourself to the reality that, you just can't control another person's capacity for intimacy.
That distinction is, wow, that's transformative. It leads to that moment of deep internal acceptance, which is summarized by the statement, Aku sudah cukup, sudah sangat cukup.
I am enough. I am very much enough. It's the decision to prioritize self-love over any kind of external validation.
She even addresses the whole idea of karma surrounding rejection.
Right, which can be a very culturally loaded subject. Instead of seeing rejection as some kind of punishment for past wrongs, she reframes it.
How so?
It's not karma, she says, but pimahaman. Understanding. Understanding you gain by standing on the other side of that pain. The goal is self-awareness and learning, not self-flagellation. It's about liberation from that cycle of guilt.
We also have to touch on the cultural and emotional minefield of the rescue conflict.
The parental blessing, yes.
The dilemma of choosing a partner without that full parental blessing. For a firstborn who has spent their entire life trying to be the family pillar, this conflict must be just agonizing.
It's an immense struggle. It's the love I chose for myself versus the love that raised me. The author acknowledges that this choice pits your emotional autonomy against generations of expectation. And the source notes that sometimes the deepest internal block isn't even the partner themselves, but the unresolved emotional baggage with the parent, often the mother.
So healing that internal dynamic is the key.
It's often the precursor to finding peace in the relationship you've chosen.
And the book offers a challenging perspective on this, one it doesn't endorse but explores. The idea that a rejected blessing can sometimes be seen as perlindungan dari semesta.
Protection from the universe.
Yeah, that's a heavy concept to process. It suggests that external rejection might actually be forcing you to create necessary internal boundaries.
It's forcing the realization that true validation has to come from within. But the journey isn't just about setting boundaries, it's also about mending the past where you can. The anecdote she shares about her father is just incredibly poignant.
Oh, yes. She recalls this time of relentless bullying where, after years of silence and being that scavenger,
her father finally stood up for her. He defended her. A single defining act of change, an act of pembalin. And that single act, even though it was so long overdue, was enough to begin healing 1,000 previous wounds.
And why? What made that one moment so powerful?
Because it provided the core validation that had been missing her entire life.
Aku berharga. Aku pantas dilindungi.
I am valuable. I deserve protection.
It showed her that the relationship wasn't permanently broken and that change, even late in the game, was possible. That moment provided the foundation for her own self-worth.
And it's that foundational validation that makes the rest of the healing process possible. So, what does the true path to pull it to recovery? What does that look like according to the author?
She's very, very clear about this. True recovery is not about becoming pula sa Binonya. It's not about achieving some perfect trauma-free state.
Okay.
It's about being jujur don peno yusaha, honest and full of effort with the wounds you already have. It's accepting the scars and integrating them as wisdom, not trying to erase them.
And the book lays out 5 steps, specifically tailored for the firstborn daughter, to begin this process. What's the very first one? The first step is maybe the hardest. It's to acknowledge the wound. This means facing the trauma and unequivocally recognizing that what happened was not normal and that your childhood experience was genuinely painful. You can't move forward without that.
And once that recognition is there, the second step seems to address the core problem of being the pillar.
Yes. Release the burden.
Mm.
This is about giving yourself radical permission to be weak, to be tired, and to cry, to finally take off that mature, strong facade and allow yourself to feel.
The third step then focuses on that silence mechanism we talked about.
Find a voice. This means actively creating safe space, whether it's writing, therapy, trusted friends, to stop storing those unspoken words and those little shards, the serpahan, in your chest. You have to externalize the pain to process it.
The fourth step seems to be about breaking the pattern in your adult life.
Separate the future. The declaration is so powerful. Pernikahan mereka bukan takdirku.
Their marriage is not my destiny.
It's a conscious, explicit act of mental separation from the toxic cycles you witnessed at home.
And finally, the fifth step.
Forgive without forgetting. This is so critical. Forgiveness is framed not as condoning what others did, but as an act of pembebasan liberation for yourself.
So you forgive to stop the past from controlling your future.
Exactly. It's not necessarily about reconciling with the people who hurt you. It's for you.
The ultimate goal of all this deep internal work is profoundly generational, isn't it? It's about the commitment to becoming Ibriyang Hadir.
The mother who is present. Yes. This is the commitment to making sure the cycle ends with you, to consciously provide a warm place of return, and, most importantly, to validate your own child's feelings.
To practice the emotional safety that was missing in your own childhood.
Yes.
And this emphasis on internal readiness leads directly to her core wisdom about building relationships. The book really stresses the absolute importance of healing before marriage.
Because marriage, in this context, is about membangun, bukan menambal.
Building something new, not patching up old wounds with a partner's love.
Right. If you don't know how to make yourself happy, you can't realistically share happiness with another person. Entering a marriage looking for a cure for your past is almost guaranteed to lead you right back to the pattern you swore you'd avoid.
So the wisdom here is that real strength isn't about being invulnerable or perfect. It's about the radical honesty to just say, Aku pernah sakit, dan aku sedang berusaha sembuh.
I was once sick, and I am currently trying to heal.
And that honesty, that vulnerability, that's where the light comes from. The author leaves us with this beautiful guiding metaphor.
The stars.
Bintang Bintang.
Bringing the stars back into the room.
The idea is that the deepest pain and also the parts of yourself you had to hide, your joy, your tenderness, your peace, they weren't actually gone.
They were just eclipsed by the noise and the duty of being the pillar.
And once you acknowledge them and you care for them through this slow process of healing, they return. Wounds are not always dark. Sometimes they shine, sometimes they return home as stars.
That is the liberation you find on the path of healing, one by one.
A deeply resonant and, I think, validating framework for anyone carrying the weight of generational burdens. It gives you a path forward, satu persatu. Thank you for diving into this powerful source with us. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.